What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Progressive Gentleman Podcast for episode 2. We are your hosts, Dan and Matt. And today I think we want to talk a little bit about 2022 and what's on the horizon. I know we just recently discussed everything that we sort of experienced in 2021, talked about our albums of the year, and now we kind of are looking at a list that we've been putting together about releases that have either been announced or that we're kind of anticipating for 2022. We got a pretty lengthy list already, and it's January, so I think it's going to be a pretty solid year.
Yeah, definitely. It looks like it's going to shape up to be a pretty great year again.
Absolutely. So, Matt, which one of these on this list that we got put together here are you most excited about?
Well, I think one that I'm, it already came out actually on Friday, Fit for an Autopsy, Oh, What the Future Holds. I just listened to it last night, so got to listen through it, and I enjoyed their singles as they were putting them out, but it's definitely seems like it's going to be a solid album for the year. So I guess it's not anticipated anymore. It was for a couple weeks, but now that it's out, it's an awesome album. Like it's really, really heavy. I guess it doesn't necessarily fit the progressive mold per se, but I don't know, Fit for an Autopsy just makes awesome music, and I love their last album too, Sea of Tragic Beasts. So this album's awesome. I definitely recommend checking it out if you've not heard of or listened to Fit for an Autopsy. Like I said, they're heavier, so for anyone who's listened to our albums of the year from last year, this doesn't really sound a lot like any of those. But
yeah, I would say the heaviest band we talked about in that podcast was probably Humanity's Last Breath. How would you say these guys compare to them?
I'd say they stack up pretty similarly. They're definitely not as like atmospheric and proggy as Humanity's Last Breath, but they're definitely like that level of heaviness, I'd say. So definitely, if you liked them and you would check them out, check out Fit for an Autopsy. They're awesome.
Nice. I have not personally listened to that record yet, but it's definitely on my list to check out. So
yeah, definitely recommend it. As for albums that haven't released yet, I'd say one of the ones that's on my radar, I saw a bunch of bands posting about it on their albums of the year last year. Cult of Luna put out an album, and they actually put out a single towards the end of last year called Cold Burn, and they have their full album is going to be released on February 11th, called The Long Road North, and that single was really awesome. The album last year, it didn't quite hit as much as the other albums that were on our list, but I did really enjoy what I listened to.
Was it a full length last year?
I think number of track wise, it was like an EP, but length wise, it was
so
about
it's just
like a full
4
album.
really long songs.
Yeah, they were really long. They kind of do that like that kind of like doom metal, and they're like 12-minute songs.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I'm definitely excited for this one. So that's probably the first that's coming up on my radar of. I
did go and listen to that single yesterday, Cold Burn. I enjoyed it. It's not necessarily what I listen to on a daily basis, but I did enjoy it. I think that record's probably going to be pretty solid. I'll have to go back and listen to that record they released last year, the 4 long songs.
Yeah, I don't remember how many it was, but yeah, it was good. It was very similar, but I think Cold Burn is better than the tracks that were on that album. So I am excited for this new one. So
awesome.
What is your most anticipated one? I think I know the answer to it, but
yeah, pretty much anybody who knows me, and you guys will come to know this as well about me. Anytime there's a Coheed and Cambria record on the horizon, I'm likely probably most anticipating that record. So that's probably the one I want to talk about. It actually just got announced yesterday officially. We knew it was coming this year. They've already dropped 2 singles for it. But the official date, the official name, so it's coming out May 27th. The name it's a continuation of the Vaxis story if you follow along with Coheed and Cambria. So it's going to be Vaxis 2, A Window of the Waking Mind. Pretty solid Coheed and Cambria record name. It kind of fits. But yeah, as far as the singles go, Shoulders was the first one, and then Cut the Cord was the second one. Shoulders sort of fits along the lines of, I would almost call it like fuzz, like a fuzz pedal, like industrial rock sound. It almost like seems like a mashup of something that you would have found on No World for Tomorrow mixed with something you would have found on Year of the Black Rainbow, two of their existing records. If you're not familiar with Coheed and Cambria, I would imagine probably most of the people that would listen to us are.
Probably.
But just in case you're not, those are records to check out. But yeah, I could probably talk about Coheed and Cambria all day. They've sort of been trending into they go back and forth with their releases. So at the Afterman records, I'm not going to talk about their original records. The Afterman records were a mix of like prog brilliance and then just that normal down the line pop rock that Coheed puts out from time to time too. But then they went from that to Color Before the Sun, which I know you're a fan of.
Yeah, I love that album.
That was their only record that they sort of removed themselves from the concept that they sort of operate within, the Amory Wars, and sort of wrote just a non-concept, almost just traditional rock record. And it's good in its own right, for sure, but whenever they went from that and then jumped back into the concept with Vaxis, that sort of is what excited me as a Coheed, like back to being a Coheed fan to the level that I am. So I'm excited for Vaxis too. I think Cut the Cord for me almost fits in with the Willingwells, Good Apollo 1, which are some of the best prog songs ever written in my opinion.
Oh yeah,
so
that's awesome songs.
So that's why I'm excited for this record. I think there were some interviews that scared me a little bit. Claudio saying that this is going to challenge the fan base.
Yikes.
You never like to hear that because typically that means they're going to do something crazy. And if you're familiar with Claudio Sanchez, he has a side project as well called The Prize Fighter Inferno, which is pretty much mostly like electronic style music.
Yeah, it's very like synth wavy almost.
Yeah,
is like, for lack of a better term.
And he's a big fan of like synths and different like things like that. I know he collects a lot of old like classic synths and even like classic children's music toys. Like I've seen him post like him finding old like 70s Casio like mini keyboard synths and all this stuff. Like he's real into that kind of stuff. So what scares me a little bit is that some of that or more of that or too much of that is going to bleed into Coheed and Cambria. But maybe that'll be good. I don't know. But honestly, hearing Cut the Cord re-energized me and made me sort of take a deep breath and say, okay, maybe it's not going to be that different.
Yeah, I liked, I think Shoulders was different than, like, it still had the Coheed flavor, but it had, like, some branching out and getting some sort of, like, fuzzy, like, southern rock vibes in it, which I really enjoyed, and I think it's cool. But then Rise Nyanasha had very, very Coheed flavor, so I think it seems like maybe they'll branch out in a couple songs, but, like, by and large, the album itself will hopefully remain, what Coheed fans know and love. But I am excited for that album as well. It's the, that whole box set release and stuff. I'm ready to go.
Yeah, my wallet is already hiding from me in preparation for whenever they do the full releases. We already bought the box set, but
yeah. Anxiously awaiting May 27th.
But yeah, that's kind of where I'll hang it up with that. I know I could talk about Coheed all day. We don't need to go any further into that, but excited, anxious, and intrigued to see sort of what he meant by, we're going to test the fan base. So I'm intrigued.
Yeah, it's definitely some curious words to use.
For sure. So, all right, other than that one on this list, what's the next one that you're most excited about?
For me, probably Haunted Shores. That's, Misha Mansour and Mark Holcomb from Periphery's kind of side project. They put out a single called Hellfire. I think might have been on Friday or sometime this past week. And they're announced that the album will release on March 11th. It's called Void. I thought the song Hellfire was pretty cool. It starts off and has very like black metal-y feel to it, which, I mean, I'm not typically a big black metal fan. And the first few seconds, it kind of had that like recorded on a Nokia cell phone sound. Like, black metal typically has that kind of stereotype.
Some of the creepiest shows I've ever been to, black metal shows.
Yeah.
Those fans are crazy.
Yeah, but then it kind of kicks in and it still rides the black metal vibe for a little bit, but then you can really see like that periphery style come through in the song. It's definitely very different than was it Viscera, I think, was their first and only other album. That was very much like chuggy, genty, sort of like just extra periphery content, whereas this feels different. It feels like they're kind of settling into their own sound with this side project, and I'm kind of excited to see where they go with it. If they keep every track sort of black metal inspired, based on the album artwork, it kind of looks like it will. The creepy like wet bloody eyeball thing. It looks very like black metal-y artwork, so
You're a big Periphery fan.
Yeah.
I enjoy Periphery as well, but I think you're probably tenfold the Periphery fan that I am. So, do you know sort of why they started this sort of spin-off thing? Is it because they wanted to do something heavier, you think?
I don't know. They all kind of have like, Spencer has his King Mothership project.
Right.
It's sort of like, it's kind of like pop punky almost a little bit.
And he did that. He did that album with From First to Last too. Did you know that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, where
I forgot about that.
He stepped in and did vocals for whenever From First to Last decided to release a record, that like Dead Trees record or whatever it's called.
Yeah, I do remember. And now that you say that, and then I know, I think it's Misha and Jake Bowen have a side project 10 seconds ago.
Oh,
and it's
I did listen to that.
Very like ambient electronic rock kind of stuff. It's much softer.
Yeah, I actually liked that.
Yeah, I really enjoy it too. And I think it seems like they're all good friends and they all just have their own like tastes outside of Periphery.
So they're like,
kind of making their own.
They're just always creating.
Yeah. Well, that's what they also have 3 Dot Records, so they put out their own stuff and they just keep churning out.
It seems to be a big thing lately, is just self-produced records or like bands starting their own labels or.
Well, they're very good at it. I have to say, like
and I know Misha does a lot of like stuff for other bands too. I know it's probably not a super well-known band, but there's a band called Being. I've probably showed you them at some point, but I know he did some work with them. They have a song called Cosmonaut. So if anybody's listening to this, the band is Being. The song is Cosmonaut. Misha's on that, and he helped produce the track. It's fantastic.
Oh, you did play that for me. Yeah, I do.
Yeah, so I know he does that for other bands too. So it's kind of cool. He's very passionate about that stuff. I figure this is probably the easiest transition we're gonna do. And, you might as well start talking about the Periphery release that we're anticipating as well.
Yeah, I was hoping either you would bring that up next, or
I just think it would be dumb to go to a different band and then come back to Periphery after all this.
Yeah, I kind of forgot that last year they had teased stuff about being in the studio and recording. For Periphery, I know their last album, Hail Stan, came out in 2019, so it seems like we were about due for another album to be released, but I figured with Misha and Mark working on Haunted Shores that there's no way they'd also put out a Periphery album, but they did tease that it was going to be out. There's not like a release date or a title or anything.
No.
I'm sure it'll be some like weird, goofy title based
Right.
on, their last album, Hail Stan.
Yeah, I know we've seen tweets and Instagram posts and things like that from, I know Spencer made some posts back in like mid 2021 about being excited to get into the studio with the new material that they're working on, and then
He made some like funny tweet about it too. I was actually looking at it yesterday. I was
put
hoping I'd remember.
my mouth noises all over this record or something like that. Yeah,
I'm excited to put my mouth sounds
yeah,
on
it's
this
like
album.
something like that. But yeah, it was funny. And yeah, they've all individually posted like story posts on Instagram and things like that of, what would seem like them in the studio throughout different points of 2021. So
Yeah.
I think that's definitely something that we should likely get in 2022 would be that P5 release. So
There was actually, I was going back through, it might have been the 3 Dot Recordings Twitter, and they had a pretty substantial song clip, and it was genty as hell, like just super chuggy, and it was just all of them sitting around listening to it, and they were all like banging their heads and kind of, you could tell they were like amped about writing it and putting out the little teaser. And I don't remember seeing that when they tweeted it earlier in the year, mid last year. But I was going through last night and saw that. I was like, oh damn, I missed this clip. But it sounds cool. So if that actually ends up being one of the tracks on the album, and that's like the kind of vibe of the album, I'm definitely excited for it.
absolutely.
But what would I don't want to hog the whole conversation about
we just-
anticipated albums. so-
Periphery affiliates just took up a good chunk there. But
Yeah.
hey, I mean, that's a big band in this genre. So I would say probably for me, if we're gonna switch up off of Periphery here, the next one on my list that I would be most excited for, assuming it comes to fruition, because we've got limited teases here, but they do exist, and that's The Contortionist. The Contortionist is one of my favorite bands of all time. Probably top 5 bands for like how many times I've seen a band in concert. I'm double digits for them for sure.
Wow.
And I've seen them in probably at least 4 states. It might be more than that, but I don't want to sit here spending time trying to figure that out. So yeah, huge band for me. I think the biggest intrigue behind a potential new Contortionist record is sort of the direction they go in. I know a lot of Contortionist fans are sort of divided. A lot of fans want them to sort of stick to their early sound, the Exoplanet sound, the Intrinsic sound, where they
people love
were
that.
mostly heavy ambient mixed in with some clean vocals and crazy guitar work, and just like, honestly, for me in that era, for them, they were a Between the Buried and Me clone to a degree. Which if somebody's directly comparing you to Between the Buried and Me, like, you take that.
Yeah, that's not really an insult.
You definitely take that. But when Mike Lesser joined the band, and then they released Language, they sort of took on a slightly new sound, as a band does whenever you make a major change, like getting a new vocalist. But I personally was excited about that change, and Language is one of my favorite records.
Language is I feel the same way. I think Language is probably one of my favorites too, but I also love Intrinsic and Exoplanet.
Oh yeah,
I feel like I've just been along for the Contortionist ride of their change in their sound, and I've enjoyed all of their albums so far, even though they're all pretty substantially different than each other.
Yeah, they've definitely progressively started to get like from firmly planted in the prog metal camp. Like, even at times you would even think like deathcore like sound, to this new like half prog metal, half prog rock type of like divide that they had on Language. And then Clairvoyant comes out, and that's even more like prog rock leaning. You still get a lot of prog metal vibes and, you know, moments on that record. But really it's, you know, songs like Reimagined, that's a prog rock song. Like there's not a whole lot of metal going on. Which is fine because it's still a fantastic record, and it's still The Contortionist. That's what's so confusing by it. It's like how you can change your sound that much, but whenever a song comes on, you're like, that's who that is. Like whether it's Flourish coming on, oh, that's The Contortionist, or it's Reimagined coming on, oh, that's The Contortionist. Like there's still just something about what they do that's just so them.
Yeah.
That it doesn't really matter what style of music they're putting out, you still associate it with that's The Contortionist.
Yeah, I think with the teaser that they put out of one of the songs off their new track, at first I was like, oh no, they're going like full prog rock. I don't know how I feel about that. But the more I think about it, like I really enjoy Language Reimagined, where it's all just like acoustic and
So
very,
good.
very soft prog rock.
There are times where I'll just put side D of that Language Reimagined vinyl on, which is just all the Reimagined tracks on, just to like chill out like that.
It's
those
really
songs
good.
are so well done.
Yeah, and I think that like that's the thing that's awesome about the Language album is both of those work. Like the acoustic, more relaxed versions work well, but then also they have the normal, like the original recorded versions that are much heavier at times, and it works both ways very well, I think.
For sure. And selfishly, with my taste sort of starting to trend towards progressive rock, I'm not as nervous about it, but there is still part of me that wants to hear like an Exoplanet 2 style record that just like all of a sudden flips the script and they just go crazy on a record. Then go back to the prog rock. That's fine. Or like mix some prog rock songs in there. But I just want to hear. I think that's because like you were saying, we heard the clip of the new song, of a new song, and it sounded to me very like. And this is a weird, like, we're talking about a progressive rock band, and I'm about to say this clip, it sounded like Foo Fighters meets, like, Deftones meets, like 90s grunge. Like, it was very...
Yeah, it definitely, like, I know that Michael Lessard really has a influence from Smashing Pumpkins. I mean, since they covered 1979 on their last EP. I felt a lot of that influence in the snippet that he played. So I am kind of expecting there to be like a 90s grunge vibe to the album. Just it kind of almost makes sense, like he tail ended that EP with a Smashing Pumpkins song, and then like the next album that comes out has that feel. It's almost like the progression. It's like he kind of foreshadowed the progression of their band.
And another selfish thing about the progression and how I benefit from it is it opens up sort of a new world of like bands they can tour with.
That's true.
Whenever you start writing progressive rock songs, like songs that are a lot more accessible than Flourish, it opens up the possibilities of touring with bands like Coheed and Cambria, which they did a mini tour with. Or like Deer Hunter, they could tour with them. Manchester Orchestra, they could tour with them. Like I could see them on tour with like Delta Sleep. Like I could see them on tour with Spirit Box and Sleep Token. Like I could see them on tour with really any. But then you could still see them go play a tour with Between the Buried and Me and just break out shit from Exoplanet. Like
they have a good catalog of different level of heavy, so they could kind of adjust their set list according to whatever bands that they play with. But I agree. I think it would open up the possibility for them to tour with basically any prog band, whether they be metal or rock, and they can. Right. They've got something for everybody.
Exactly. It does expand their catalog a bit. That doesn't put them in as much of a box.
Yeah.
But again, I wouldn't hate hearing an Exoplanet 2.
Yeah, I'm kind of like, I'm excited regardless of what they end up doing, whether it ends up being full rock or, you know, if they have a mix of tracks. I don't anticipate it being like an Exoplanet 2 just from that song clip. I mean, maybe that's the only song that's softer and the rest are
Give me one
Exoplanet
song.
2.
That's like, make it a whole prog rock record, and then the last track just blow people's brains.
Just
like,
surprise.
Just crazy, just punishing metal. And make it like, even if it's just like sarcastic, just because people have been asking for it and complaining about it. Just make one like obnoxiously unnecessary heavy song just to like,
and just call the track Exoplanet 2 so they can be like, here you go, shut up.
Just so people are like, oh wow, they did that thing.
Our prayers have been answered.
And then it'll start the questions of, oh, how's the next record going to be? They ended on a heavy note. The next record's going to be crazy.
That would definitely get people.
And then literally just release like a folk rock record or something next. But they could do all that because they're incredibly talented musicians and they have such a wide range of, interests and abilities.
Yeah.
Like, they could literally put out any type of record, and I'm going to buy it and listen to it. So.
Yeah, me too. I would definitely. I'm excited for this one. I hope it comes out earlier in the year rather than later, but I do see, just kind of from our list, a lot of albums have like kind of first quarter release dates. So
yeah, I'm anticipating if we do get a Contortionist record this year, which we're anticipating, it's likely going to be like the August to November time frame because we haven't gotten a single yet.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Once the first single drops, then we can sort of start thinking about, when it's going to come out. But until then, we're just stuck with teasers and and anticipation. But the Contortionist is another band I could probably talk all day about. So what's the next one on this list that most intrigues you?
I think for me, just speaking about haven't got singles yet, I'm kind of intrigued that Meshuggah is putting out an album that's supposed to release on April 1st, but we haven't gotten a single from them or anything yet. And the pre-orders for, I'm assuming, both vinyl and CDs and probably shirts and other assorted merch starts, I think it's the 28th of January. So they're about to put out pre-orders, but haven't dropped a single yet. I'm sure it'll come out probably sometime between now and then. I feel like
for some reason I thought I saw one.
Did they? Maybe it came out in the last couple of days and
it's
I
possible
just missed
that
it.
It doesn't exist, but
I did see a bunch of stuff for them teasing
nothing.
The album release date and the pre-orders.
I've seen, that's I think why I thought there was a single, because literally every day it's almost like I've seen the same story post.
Yeah.
It's like an explosion.
And there's like
this
a body.
record.
You can see like anatomy and musculature and stuff.
Yeah.
It looks very Meshuggah. Like,
for sure.
It definitely, if you know Meshuggah, it's more Meshuggah, which, I mean, I guess depending on your take on Meshuggah, could either be good or bad. I just love them because they're kind of the dads of gent.
They are the godfathers of gent.
And, I just feel like we can't have a progressive metal podcast without mentioning Meshuggah.
Yeah.
Especially when they have a new album.
And gent in our name. We can't, pretend like they don't exist.
So I'm pretty excited for that. The recent announcement is exciting, and
I think
I hope the single comes out soon.
Was their last album the Violent Sleep of Reason, or did they release another record between that? Because that was like 2016.
I think 2016 or 2017 might have been the last album that they've. Yeah, there might have been singles or something in between there, but nothing lately that I saw when I was going through their.
That record
catalog.
made my list back then. That was pre-podcast, so there's no documentation of that. But I do own that on vinyl, and I do enjoy that record. So I'll definitely be excited to check out a new Meshuggah record.
Yeah, Meshuggah is one of those bands that I don't listen to them a ton, but there's just like, several times throughout the year that I just get this urge and will listen to basically nothing but Meshuggah for a short period of time. And, I'll go back through their discography and, you can't not listen to Bleed at least once. But yeah, I love them. So I'm excited for this new one.
Absolutely.
I think that's pretty much all I have to say about the Meshuggah stuff, since we don't have more information.
If there was a clip or a single, we could definitely get a little bit more into it. But I think I want to transition to a band now that I actually am kind of surprised I didn't talk about sooner, because they have one of my, if not my favorite record of all time, period. Like,
I think I know who you're going with this.
it's a record that I probably listen to too much. And that's Altered State, and the band is Tesseract.
That's who I thought it was.
That's probably one of the best prog records ever written. And that should be like sort of not just my opinion. I think that's like
Gent law.
Yeah, that should be written in stone somewhere. But yeah, Tesseract is back in the studio. There's not a whole lot announced. We anticipate it's going to be a 2022 release. I do believe some members have stated that it's going to be released sometime in 2022. When, we obviously don't know. I would probably think that since we don't have a single and we don't have like any concrete like buzz around it, that it's likely going to be second half of the year.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Their last record, Sonder, was fantastic.
That was 2018?
I think it was 18. And it was too short for me.
Not enough.
It was, I mean, the track list, there were enough songs, I think there were like 7 songs or something like that, to where if they were all, I don't know, like prog song length, that you would get probably like 45 minutes, and it clocked in under 40. I think it was like 35-minute record.
Yeah, I was going to say, we were talking about this the other day, and I went to look and just go back and listen to that album, and I think it is like 30, 35 and some change, or it's sub 40.
Yeah, so for me, that was the only drawback on that record, because, you know, Luminary, Juno, Smile was good, King was good. Like, the songs on that record, they were all fantastic. Yeah. Orbital as like a transition song into Juno, like I listened to those 2 songs back to back. Like that's Orbital's sort of like, it's like 2 minutes and it leads you into Juno.
Yeah, like a preload.
Like sometimes I'll just put those 2 songs on like to listen together, just because it's so good. It's so disappointing. Not disappointing. I felt unfulfilled because of how short that record was. But I'm looking forward to seeing where they go next. I expect great things. Daniel Tompkins is awesome.
I think he's been, because I actually follow him on Twitch, and he streams all the time. He does a lot of video game stuff, but he also streams song creation. And there was a stream, I didn't actually watch the stream, but I got the notification that it sounded like from the text, it looked like he was actually writing the lyrics to a Tesseract song on stream. Nice. So I'm sure he probably tried to limit the section to it so they didn't get, like, the viewers didn't get the whole song and stuff. But, you know, I'm sure whoever watched the stream probably got snippets of, you know, one of the songs. I would assume that's probably like the single that they would put out too, just because they've already kind of leaked their own stuff.
Yeah.
So.
But yeah, that's honestly probably top 3 for me as far as like anticipation. Assuming I think my my hype level will go up once we get a single. But just because of who that band, like Tesseract, and how sort of they're impactful they are on me.
I definitely think they're one of the prolific, you know, prog metal bands too. That
in that gent category, they do that pretty.
They
pretty
do
well.
it as gent.
they degent. But yeah, everything's pointing towards them releasing this year. So yeah, very, very much looking forward to seeing where they go next, and hoping for a record that's a little bit longer than 35 minutes.
Yeah, definitely.
But since there's not a single, and not even really that many, you know, you said he did some streaming, but there's not really any snippets of songs that I know about out there. I guess we can probably move on from them, and if you want to pick another one on this list. Yeah,
I think my next, probably most anticipated, would be Unprocessed.
Nice.
I really like their music. just kind of recently gotten into them. I think actually it was through the Spotify fans of this band also like, and I always I'll get that urge to just kind of dig through the Spotify rabbit hole.
I do that all the time.
Yeah, and I did that with Unprocessed, and then kind of as I started listening to them, I heard more people talking about them. It's like, oh, you listen to Unprocessed too, but they have that like Polyphia sort of like Pliny interval sound to them, which I love. But they do their own thing, and one of their singles, Dead Rose, that they put out recently, it kind of had a mix of, it almost had some like Billie Eilish vibe to it, which was very unique and stuff that I was, at first when I listened to it, was like, whoa, what is this? And then by the end of the song, I was like, wow, that was really good. I enjoyed that. So.
I just want to state we're a big Billie Eilish podcast. And that's not exaggerating. I very much enjoy Billie Eilish.
Yeah, but, I like her music too.
Yeah, Unprocessed for me does what Polyphia tries to do better. And I know a lot of people are probably going to be like, what? But so Polyphia started out pretty heavy. And sort of transitioned to that like pop sound, like pop art, like almost like
they kind of went into like
they embrace almost like R&B, like
yeah.
R&B hip hop like vibes with their music, and I love it. By the way, I'm not knocking Polyphia at all. Why I think I like Unprocessed a little bit better is I think the whole vocal aspect of it, like they put vocals in their songs. I know Polyphia has a couple. Where they have like vocal features on some songs, but it's never like
it's
never,
not the main
right,
thing for the
exactly.
songs. Yeah.
So I think that's why I prefer Unprocessed. So that's really where I say they do it better. I don't.
Yeah.
No offense to Tim or Scott. or any
Clay.
of those guys, Clay, but Clay squared, because I'm pretty sure the drummer's name is also Clay.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
I actually don't know the drummer. I know the other guys in the band.
I've met them all a couple times. They're good guys, but
it seems like they've gone into that like hip hop thing with whereas Unprocessed seems like they've found their thing and they're kind of sticking to it, and they're kind of taking like older Polyphia sound but keeping it, and they're adding vocals. And I think that's my thing, is sort of like Polyphia like transitioned to where they're at from like a slightly different arena, and they sort of found their sound this way, and I'm not even sure, I can't say like which band did it first, and I'm sure if I was like, oh well, Polyphia, or Unprocessed did it first and then Polyphia, like I'm sure it was probably Polyphia that did it first, so I'm not trying to like say that and have somebody be like, you were wrong. But as far as I know, and as far as I've explored Unprocessed's catalog, that's like they sort of always had that type of sound where Polyphia sort of evolved into it. But Real is another single that I really enjoyed. Rain and Portrait are like the two newest ones. I really like the feel, like the ambient feel to Rain. I don't know if I've listened to Rain yet. I've listened to Real and Dead Rose, and I liked both of them. I think I listened to Candyland, but I don't recall if I have.
Yeah, and Real, since we've been talking about Polyphia, Tim and Clay are featured on that song.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh no, I have heard that one then, because I do remember seeing that.
Obviously, they know that they are similar bands, and and Tim is a absolute freak on guitar. So is Scott. So I mean, I'm not. I could never do what they do. It makes me want to burn my guitars every time I see them pick one up. So. Shout out to all.
So thanks for that.
Yeah, Polyphia. So thanks a lot for crushing my musician dreams. But yeah, back to Unprocessed though, since this isn't a Polyphia discussion.
Although it would be pretty sweet if Polyphia also put out.
They're probably due for one, to be honest. But
there hasn't been any like rumors or anything.
Yeah, I've not heard any buzz, but yeah, Unprocessed is awesome. I really like the vocals with that style of music. It's almost like I don't even know. Is there even another, like, I was gonna say Chon has some songs where they have some vocals while they do that, but it's not like what Chon does either. So yeah,
there's not really any.
It helps
of
them stand out.
Yeah, I think probably the closest thing would be like the one Intervals album that has vocals, which I know seemed like it wasn't very popular, hence they only did one album with a vocalist, but I really enjoyed that album. Like I thought he had good vocals. I guess it's just like, you know, with that kind of heavier, chuggier riffs that Aaron puts out, that they were expecting more like heavy vocals as well, and it was softer. But I mean, I appreciate both. You know, I think it just, like, listening to a bunch of different bands and getting different sounds is a thing that I enjoy. So I think it fit well personally. But
and Unprocessed, just like with that Intervals record, it's still technical, but it's not as technical as like his other, like the other Intervals records, like Circadian, the newest one, where he's essentially writing riffs to sort of fill in for the fact that there's no vocals.
Yeah.
So, you know, the lead track for guitar is essentially replacing where vocal would be. But with the Unprocessed records and the unprocessed, like, songs with vocals, I don't feel like it takes anything away from the absolute ridiculous technical ability of the track.
Yeah.
Like, so it's interesting to see, like, them keep that level of musicianship but also have vocals.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with them.
It's funny, I said that Unprocessed was one of my most anticipated.
And I kind of took over. I apologize.
No. Hey.
So why don't you give me another one, since I just sort of started rolling all over that one.
I think probably my next one would be Seder. Actually, you and I kind of just both recently found out about them through the Intervals, Cryptodira, Thank You Scientists tour. They kind of hopped on after Idola got. I don't know if they
the lead singer had some kind of like surgery done or something like that, and they had to drop off.
Yeah, so then Seder took their place on the tour, and they have very Fall of Troy sound to them, I think.
Dance Gavin Dance a little bit.
Yeah, definitely Dance Gavin Dance as well. I really like their sound, and you know, I enjoyed seeing them at the show, and so much so that picked up their vinyl and been listening to it quite a bit. So I'm excited to hear that they're also planning on putting out a new album, because I mean, they're new to me, so I'm still listening to this current album, and knowing that there's more on the horizon is pretty exciting. So
yeah, pretty much all of their music is new music to us. As of, you know, the last couple months here. But it's funny, we actually discovered that they were releasing a new record last night. I just happened to see them go live on Instagram Live and jumped on. And they said that they were going to be, you know, they're in the process of mixing and mastering, and it's going to be released this year. So
they didn't say anything about like the album, like release date or the name of the album or anything, right?
No, they talked about who they were working with, and I totally forget the person's name. I think it was like Corey something, but I that probably would be, but it probably would mean nothing even if I knew the name to most people.
Is it the album producer?
The guy that's like I think helping to like mix and master the record.
Oh, okay.
But because he wasn't like on the stream, on the live stream, but he was in the chat, and they're like, oh, there's the guy, he's actually doing this. And but yeah, so they're actively mixing and mastering, and they actually have everything's recorded already. So I would imagine that we're probably going to get that record at least we're going to get the first single. I know mixing and mastering and all that stuff takes time.
Yeah.
And you know, putting in the order for CDs and vinyl and all that stuff takes time. So I would think like a middle of the year, like early summer release is probably realistic.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I mean, they didn't give any release date or anything, so I would feel like it has to be at least like second quarter or beyond.
I wouldn't be surprised that if they're already in the middle of mixing and mastering, I wouldn't be surprised if we got a single in the next like month
Yeah,
or
once
two.
they get the first
Right.
track or two like
Yeah.
mixed and mastered, just pop one onto Spotify and
Yep. So
Yeah.
I definitely am going to keep an eye out for that, and I'm still, like I said, sort of consuming their current material, because it's not something that I've spent a lot of time listening to since we just discovered them like last month. So,
Yeah.
so definitely looking forward to continuing to dive into their catalog, but also looking forward to more music from them.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I guess a few of the ones that I've been anticipating don't have much information, unfortunately, about singles or
Yeah.
release dates. But what's
I mean,
your
it's
next?
still early, it's still early in the year, so it's it's not super expected to have too much information, but
Yeah.
but the fact that we've already had a couple records release that are on this list are kind of, it's things are progressing.
Yeah, definitely.
But I'm not going to talk about one of those. I'm going to talk about my next anticipated record, would be the Deer Hunter. We got sort of a soundtrack, and we got a like a short film sort of introducing the new concept. If you're familiar with the Deer Hunter, they had a concept for like 5 records, act 1 through 5. And they are now, I'm not going to dive into the concept and all that stuff, because I probably did that enough with Coheed. I don't need to do that with Deer Hunter too. But they are switching it up. So they are no longer following that existing concept.
But it's another concept, though, right?
It's a completely new concept. And it's called The Indigo Child. They released a short film called Cycle 8. It's sort of a prologue introducing the concept.
It was a cool short film too.
It was very well done. I mean, I was pleasantly surprised to see how well done it was.
Yeah, like for it being a short video to a concept album, like the budget how good of a
and it's not like
graphic
Deer
design
Hunter's
there.
like this radio rock band that like is raking in all this money to be able to like fund something super high budget. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
so,
it definitely has to be a passion project for them to do like.
To see them put something out with that much, like, with that high quality.
Yeah.
It was really cool to see. And then they had like a sort of corresponding vinyl release that was a soundtrack. Essentially, most of it was just music that went along with.
Yeah, it was kind of like a score.
Yeah, exactly. That's the better way to put it. But there was one song done 2 ways with vocals, and that was the Indigo Child.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was going to say. I thought it was called.
And it was well done. I enjoyed it. Very Deer Hunter.
Yeah, definitely.
They still sound like the Deer Hunter. So no worries there. But I'm very interested to see sort of the first full length record in this new concept, and sort of where it takes the music, because I know he draws a lot of inspiration from what's happening in the story to sort of, how the music sort of is born, I guess, to say that. Like, I know Act 3 is a much heavier record within the acts, and that's because of sort of what's happening, how dark the story gets in that act. So it's like, we don't know too much about this new concept to know like enough about where the music's gonna go, I guess, sort of. Because Deer Hunter, like Coheed and Cambria, has a lot of different styles, and like their music is sort of, you can have a heavy track like what's a good song to say? I was gonna say like The March, but that's not that heavy. The Tank isn't that heavy, but it's off Act 3. But then they also have songs like Waves, where that's a song that I could see like on a commercial, like, or on on like the radio easily. So I mean, there's a lot of different styles there. Mustard Gas was the song I was trying to think of, heavy wise.
Oh yeah, that is a heavy song.
So like, you get all these different styles, and then so you never know really where their records are going to take you. So I'm intrigued to see sort of with the new concept where that takes them musically.
Yeah, I'm honestly I'm excited for more short films. I hope they continue that and like release short films.
I want a full feature.
Yeah, I mean it would be cool. Like even if they don't do a full feature, if they like put out these short films for each of their album releases, that then kind of all coalesce into, if you watch them back to back, it's one
That would be cool.
kind of feature film. Yeah, after that short one, it kind of left me wanting more, and
Yeah.
like I'm also excited for the album too, and I think it's cool to have that extended universe stuff, sort of like Coheed does, where they've got the books and comics and all that extra universe stuff that just like it gets you like really steeped into their.
It's immersive.
Yeah,
it sucks you in.
Yeah, and I really like that experience with music, so I'm excited for that too. And I haven't listened to nearly as much Deer Hunter as you have, but you definitely turned me on to them, and I'm excited for this new album as well.
Yeah, I would say in the list, they're also pretty high up there for me as far as anticipation, and likely one of those bands that, regardless of what they put out, they have a good shot of being on that album of the year list at the end of the year. So
yeah,
that's another thing too to mention. Look out for some of these bands that we're talking about and see kind of where they land, because we plan on doing an album of the year podcast episode every year that we do the podcast. Hopefully we keep this going, but
keep it riding.
There's a good chance a good chunk of these will be on that list, or we'll be talking about them sort of at the end of the year. But we still got some more on this list. Is there one that sticks out to you left?
I think for me, I'm I guess similar to the Coheed one, where you're excited about it, but also like being cautiously optimistic. I would say Animals as Leaders. They announced the album's out March 25th. It's called Parisia, I think is how you pronounce it. They put out 2 singles, Monomyth and The Problem of Other Minds. Monomyth, both songs they're good, for sure. It feels like it's more Animals as Leaders, which Tosin and Javier Reyes, they're both like just beasts.
Yeah,
and
they're insane musicians.
Yeah, so I'm excited for that, to see what this new album will be. Monomyth was kind of a song that was like, yeah, it's good. It's there's no denying the talent, but it kind of felt like, I almost felt like it was just like they recorded a jam band session of jam band in the way that a progressive metal guitarist would jam band. But I did like The Problem of Other Minds a little more than Monomyth, so I'm excited to see what the rest of the album is like.
Yeah, I feel the same way about Animals as Leaders. They are just consistently good.
Yeah.
And you can't listen to any of their music and be like, this is not good, this is bad. Like, anything that, if an Animals as Leaders song comes on, you pretty much right away recognize who the band is. Because Tosin's style is very unique.
That Tosin thump that he's got.
Yeah, it's just crazy. And I know a lot of bands are sort of doing that now, like taking that from him. I know Tim Henson from Polyphia is one of the ones that's sort of incorporating that style a little bit into like what he writes now.
Yeah.
But while keeping his same tone.
Yeah.
Tosin does it on like a 9-string guitar with tunes. Like he's like, it's very unique what they do with their music. But for me, it's one of those things where I'm going to listen to it. I'm going to enjoy it. Some of the songs will probably make my like favorite songs of the year playlist, but I likely won't have it on like a playlist I'm listening to every day.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel about Animals as Leaders. It's like their music is fantastic, but it's not something that makes my like daily rotation, which is why sort of, they'll likely make an end of the year list for me just because they're good. But there will be records that stand out more to me just because I'm playing them on repeat more, because they're more like repeatable, I guess.
Yeah, I think, and that's the thing. Well, I guess I should have prefaced my anticipation statement with Monomyth. You know, even though it was kind of like, oh yeah, it's more animals as leaders. I think the thing is, like, the bar is set so high with them because they're so insanely talented that it's just like, yep, it's more animals as leaders. Not that that's a bad thing or anything. It just kind of like want to see something like that, just like you're not expecting,
Right.
and kind of waiting for that. So it's definitely, those two singles are good, and I think it will be a solid album for sure. I just kind of hope they do like take it, maybe change, like,
Evolve.
yeah, add like something, you know, a slight new twist, or maybe
like when
throw
you've-
in some extra instruments or something weird like that, you know.
It's like when you've reached peak evolution, like Tosin Abasi has.
Yeah.
It's like, where do you go from there?
Yeah,
you
he's
know?
at his final form.
That's funny. One that I want to talk about, I know we kind of want to start wrapping this up a little bit, but one that I want to talk about is a band called Earthside. I don't know how many people have heard of Earthside. They have one album. It was released in like 2013, I want to say. It was a while ago. But something that they're mostly an instrumental outfit. They're mostly like, they have a lot of like orchestra related things built into their music, but they're mostly an instrumental, like, prog metal band. But something that they do that's cool is they'll bring in artists from other bands to do like different things in the music, whether it's vocals or like a solo feature or whatever. I know a lot of other bands do this, but they have a song with Daniel Tompkins of Tesseract that's really good. They have a song with Lejean Witherspoon from Seven Dust, which is really good. It's called Mob Mentality. That's probably my favorite Earthside song.
Yeah, that was the song that you had me listen to. That was my first experience with Earthside, and that song is really, really cool. It's got like some orchestral stuff in it.
Yeah,
like,
they're very much like, their music is very much compositions as opposed to, I mean, that's sort of a prog thing though, right? I feel like a lot of bands sort of approach, like in the prog space, approach their writing as sort of compositions as opposed to just like, we're just sitting down and strumming some power chords and writing a song. Like they take it a lot more seriously than that. Most of these guys are trained, like actually went to school for this shit.
They went to crazy, like, I can't think of one off the top of my head, but they go to like,
it's crazy. So they're getting degrees in music composition.
Yeah, like Berkeley or whatever.
Berkeley,
I was like blanking on the schools. Like, I know there's some school that's known for that stuff.
Yeah, but so I know that they've been writing this record for years. They started teasing.
Oh, wow.
They started teasing like the writing of a new record, I feel like, back in 2017. So
Wow.
I know this has been a process, and they did release a single called All We Know and Ever Loved, and then they released another version of that single with Bard, the drummer of Leprous, which is really cool. And I
need to check that out.
I enjoyed that single. It wasn't as like blow me away as I expected it to be, with sort of knowing that it's been years in the making for this record. But I know for a fact that that's not like all that they're gonna have to sort of put forward, especially since there were no vocals on that track. Not that that's a necessity, especially since they're mostly an instrumental band. But some of my favorite moments on their first record was that Daniel Tompkins song Dream and Static, or was that Lejean Witherspoon song Mob Mentality. So I'm curious to see who they bring in. It'd be cool to see maybe like a more metal feature, like bring in like Tommy Rogers or somebody like that, who I know,
That'd be cool.
I know he does a lot of features, so it would be cool to see something like that. So I think I'm very much looking forward to that, just because of the surprise factor of who's going to be featured on that record, and what direction are those songs going to take. So if you've not checked out Earthside, Mob Mentality, great song.
Yeah, I definitely recommend checking that one out as well. It seems to be a good jumping on point for Earthside. Get you either, if you enjoy it, then you'll enjoy the rest of their catalog. If you don't, then you kind of get that like, okay, then maybe they're not for me.
Yeah, it is a long song, and but stay in it. It is
Yeah,
a
go along
solid
for the ride.
for sure.
I think yeah, for me, from anticipated albums, I know you and I had talked about this one, but Carnival is has their album anticipated to come out this year. They put the single out, All It Takes.
Yeah. It's another band that hasn't released a record for I feel like almost a decade at this point. Their first record, or I don't even is it their first record? Do they have multiple records? I discovered them I started getting into the Australian prog metal scene because of artists like Pliny and bands like Caligula's Horse and bands like Ne Obliviscaris. I sort of was like, wow, there's a lot of cool stuff going on in Australia.
Yeah, I think Carnival I actually found out through Caligula's Horse on Spotify. The fans also like. Yeah. And that's how I found out about them as well.
So they do have 3 records. Their last one was 2013. But the record that I most frequent is Sound Awake, which came out in 2010. Specifically, there's a song on that record called New Day that I really enjoy. It's a longer song. But if you've not heard of Carnival, I think that's a good sort of jumping off point to see what their style is. But they released this single called All It Takes, and honestly, for me, it didn't blow me away. Especially for not releasing music for almost a decade. I was sort of anticipating something a little bit more, especially with the direction that bands like Caligula's Horse have taken.
Caligula's Horse newest album is fantastic. Yeah. The Tempest is such a good song.
So good. And so I guess maybe I almost got used to listening to them and just always put them in the same vein as Carnival. So whenever Carnival released a single, I almost expected a Caligula's Horse style song and didn't get it. They're not the same band. There's no member. The only thing they have in common is they're both from Australia. So it's there's no real reason for me to have that expectation. But yeah, I it doesn't change the fact that they're a great prog metal band that hasn't put a record out in 9 years. So the anticipation level is still very high to see where it goes. So I mean, it's similar to people who were looking forward to that new Cynic record last year. Cynic hadn't put out a record forever, so that had a super high hype level for that record. Did not make my top 10, but but it was still good, and so that's kind of where I'm at with Carnival as well. Haven't gotten new music from them in a long time. Still looking forward to it. Still gonna consume it. The single was underwhelming, but I'm hoping that
sometimes bands do that though. The single that they put out ends up being the worst track on the album.
Shout out Spiritbox, because Holy Roller. So many people think that's the best song on that record, or that's such an amazing song. That is my least favorite Spiritbox song, period. Well, everything they've ever done, I do not like that song.
Oh, really?
I don't. See,
I like it a lot, but
I know people do, and I get the whole heavy aspect, but I just that little chanty thing Holy Rollers. I don't like that. I don't know. I don't get into it, but that's not to take away from Spiritbox because they're fantastic. But
yeah, I mean, I think for me, that song is it's probably one of lower on the list of Spiritbox songs for me, but even still, it's probably a 7 out of 10 in my opinion. So they just don't seem to miss. But
no.
Unfortunately, there's no news of new Spiritbox stuff. Which
they're still riding high off of Eternal Blue. We're not gonna get a new. We might get some more singles because they seem to like to do that.
They do put out a lot of singles.
Drop singles randomly and then never actually put them on a record, even though they were the best songs you've written. Roll of Nines and Blessed Be is what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But yeah, we might get some singles, but.
Yeah.
But back to Carnival, I do think that there's going to be something on there on that record that's going to sort of reignite my fandom for Carnival. And I've actually, just knowing that it's coming back, like they're coming back with a new record is enough for me to like go back and listen to their old stuff again. So
yeah, I'm definitely excited for that too. And I know you're more of a Carnival fan than I am. I've just kind of recently got into them through Caligula's Horse, but I'm definitely excited for that as well.
Yeah, so I think that's kind of all we wanted to talk about extensively. We do have some more on the list. I think I'm just going to sort of start running down.
Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, these other ones I think were a little like, they're definitely on a radar to listen to, but maybe not quite as like we're anticipating them to make like top 10 list.
Yeah, so I'll start with the first one here, Northlane. They're releasing an album called Obsidian. It's coming out April 1st. They do have a single called Echo Chamber. I don't personally enjoy the direction that Northlane has gone into.
I actually haven't listened to this single yet to know like what the change was.
Yeah,
I generally like
just
them,
from their
but
last record, even Alien or whatever it was called. Like I was not a fan of that record. I don't like all the like electronic synthy stuff, like vocal changers and all, like just all the random shit that they do.
Yeah,
like, I'm not a fan of that. But that's all I'm gonna say about that. Under Oath, Blast from the Past band for us.
Yeah, definitely.
They're Only Chasing Safety is one of my favorite records ever. So
yeah, and Define the Great Line is a fantastic album too.
yeah, that's my wife's favorite Under Oath record is Define the Great Line. So we argue about that often, but both of those records are fantastic, and you know the direction Under Oath has gone in is also one that I'm not like super high on, and I know this record is out. Voyeurist is out. It came out on the 14th. So I've not had an opportunity to fully consume the record. I have listened to some singles, and I did like some of the stuff that I listened to. So it's probably going to get ranked higher than I thought it would for me, but I don't see this being a top 10 record for me.
I definitely, from the singles, I liked it better than their last album that was like 2018, I think it might have been.
Yeah.
I liked the singles that I listened to.
They sort of went back to like the original Under Oath sound. And with so I'm anticipating a much more traditional Under Oath record. But I don't know yet until I listen to it.
Yeah.
So the next one on the list is Porcupine Tree. Porcupine Tree is sort of one of those bands that like I wouldn't consider them godfathers of prog. But
I've heard of them, but I had never actually listened to them. And then, like this past week, I had seen a bunch of lists from like Loudwire and stuff of like most anticipated albums. I'm like, I gotta check them out and actually listen to them and stuff. And I can see why people like them. It wasn't like I didn't get too into it, but I'm definitely curious to see what this album will be like. And
yeah, they're sort of I mean, a lot of people do consider them like godfathers of prog. Like I at least like prog as it currently is today. They have a record called Fear of a Blank Planet that is like very classic for me as far as like prog goes.
I'll have to dig deeper into their catalog and listen to that.
But so I'm anticipating something cool from them. I'm anticipating enjoying the record, but for me, my tastes have sort of evolved away from what Porcupine Tree does. So I might be pleasantly surprised and they might end up on my list, but and they're definitely going to have some songs on my like top songs list, but likely not going to make my top 10.
Yeah. I think next on the list here we got Monuments. It's anticipated. They've not like necessarily announced that it's coming out, but they put out a single, Lavos. I enjoy Monuments. I mean, they've definitely like their sound has changed quite a bit.
Yeah, and their singer has changed. It's now that Andy Chiswick.
Yes, is it
Chiswick? Yeah, I don't know how to pronounce his name, but he is immensely talented. I really like what he does. And I honestly like their sound with him as a vocalist. I actually probably am more excited than I let on about this release. But I don't know where they're gonna go with it, because some of the singles or songs that they've released with him have been a little bit underwhelming. I think maybe they're just sort of trying to find their sound with their new lineup. Because didn't their one guitarist leave as well?
I honestly,
for some reason, I think
know Monuments too well. They're like one of those bands that they always just come on playlists that I listen to, and I don't a lot of times like actively like seek them out.
Yeah, they are definitely like for a while they were one of my favorite bands. They have a record called the Amanuensis. I never will ever be able to pronounce that correctly, probably. That I used to jam all the time. It came out in like 2014. So
that album is good.
But
that is one that that ends up on a lot of playlists. So I'm familiar with.
So I'm hoping I'm intrigued to see what they do first full length with their new lineup. Next one on the list is Entheos. I have it on the list just because I respect them. I don't super like most of their stuff that they put out. I don't know why I don't vibe with it. They had Evan Brewer as a bassist for a while, and he's an absolute monster. So you would think that anything that they would put out would be like extremely like Animals as Leaders level, like crazy musicianship from Evan Brewer, and but I don't know. It was just very like their stuff's very underwhelming. I know they have a pretty big fan base, and a lot of people like what they do. It's just not for me, but maybe I'll be pleasantly surprised. I know Evan Brewer is no longer in the band now, so kind of takes away even more of the allure for me.
It was short-lived.
But I will definitely still check them out.
Yeah.
We'll see what they put out. The next band on this list, I'm only doing this instead of you doing the next one, just because I know you don't even know who this is. The band is called Ghost Toast. I really enjoy the rhyming aspect of that name, but I also enjoy their music. They are an instrumental. I don't know if it's a band or if it's just like one guy. Like, you know how a lot of the bands, it's just one dude. Like Andromeda, he's just one guy. Like Ghost Toast might just be one guy. I don't know, but heavier instrumental metal, essentially. No announced date that I know of for this record, but they do have a single called Get Rid Of. Definitely worth checking out.
Yeah, I'll have to check them out, because I had not heard of them before, so the name's pretty funny, but definitely someone I'll check out. The next one on the list is And So I Watch You From Afar. I actually found them, I think it might have been, it was either Their Dogs Were Astronauts, or maybe it was Four Giants. I'm not sure which band, but it was one of those I was listening to, and then it just kind of was like, and we recommend, and so I Watch You From Afar, and they were pretty heavy on my rotation. Like maybe a year or so ago, I was listening to them constantly. So I'm excited for this one. It's coming out on February 18th. It's called Jettison, so pretty soon actually. And it looks like they've got 3 singles out.
Yeah, like I Dive Part 1 and 2, and then Ill Lung. And actually, I didn't even know it was coming out. It popped up on my like release radar playlist, so I listened to it a couple days ago, and I haven't checked it. Sounds good. I think it's going to be solid. This next one is sort of a band that I really enjoy. It's another one of those instrumental bands that sort of like broke off of the Dance Gavin Dance umbrella, and I know the guitarist was the guitarist for Dance Gavin Dance at one point. Strawberry Girls is the band. They are releasing a new record, I believe, this year. They released a single already called Butterfly Knife, and if you listen to Strawberry Girls, some of their recent releases have been sort of a lot more Chon-like, I want to say. And this single, Butterfly Knife, I feel like has gotten a bit like heavier almost than some of their stuff. I know they have some songs that are very poppy too. So to see sort of a heavier single be like the first track that they release off of this potential new record.
Yeah.
I'm excited for that. I really like.
With a name like Butterfly Knife, it's got to have some heaviness to it.
Yeah,
I think.
it's heavy for Strawberry Girls. They have a record called Italian Ghosts that I very much enjoy, and their most recent record is called Tasmanian Glow. Check them out if you've not heard of them. And if you like instrumental music, they're very talented.
Yeah, I dig them as well. I think I actually haven't listened to Butterfly Knife yet. It did pop up on my release radar, and I've been meaning to listen to it, but kind of got stuck on that Fit for an Autopsy release that came out yesterday. The next one on the list, we've got Lamb of God. There's nothing been announced, but it's been a few years since they put out their last album. So there's kind of just like rumor mill going around that they'll probably put something out this year. I haven't seen any singles either, so it's kind of all just speculation, but something that looking out for on the horizon. And I always enjoy Lamb of God stuff when they put it out, so I'm curious to see where they'll go.
I'm not much of a Lamb of God fan, but these days they were a band that I listened to like way back in my early metal days. I've seen him sort of like the lead singer show up to random shows that I've been at, and like just like I saw Gojira once, and he came out and sang with Gojira. It was real random.
Oh, that's cool.
And they were not on the bill. It was just a random show.
He just showed up
in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Like, why?
He's from Virginia, so that's like quite a drive.
It was very random.
Yeah,
and I didn't see any announcements that he was going to be there. He just kind of showed up, so that was weird. But yeah, that's my Lamb of God story. The next one on the list
doesn't fit the prog bill, but I had to slap this on here.
Yeah.
Paramore. They've been like teasing stuff. They like interviewed Haley, and she said like basically, did you think we were going to be gone forever? Kind of. So there's been no singles put out yet, but they've been interviewed multiple times. I think they had kind of hinted at an album last year, and it didn't come out, so it seems like people are thinking that it will come out this year. It just got pushed back a little bit. But I love Paramore. Like, their music's just so catchy, and like, I don't know, it's just one of those, like, no matter what song comes on, it just makes you want to like dance, and you kind of get like a groove going, and I don't know, that pop punky feel. So I had to put them on the list.
Yeah, Paramore's a guilty pleasure band for me too. Riot, I really enjoy that record. The self-titled record, I enjoy that record. Yeah, my wife's a big Paramore fan as well. So
mine too.
It's nice to be able to share some interest too. My wife likes some random music though. She likes the Contortionist too. Like she's all over the place. So it is nice to have that sort of shared interest. But yeah, Paramore, great band, and I do feel like recent releases have sort of been the Haley show. Like, it almost seems a little bit like more solo records than Paramore records. But there are some songs that still feel like Paramore, and maybe they'll go back to that now that she sort of has her
because she put
solo outfit too.
Yeah, she put out 2 albums under her own solo project, so maybe she's able to like get that as a side.
Like Adam Levine and like Maroon 5. Maroon 5. I'm not saying that I enjoy these things. I'm just throwing this out there, but I'm just trying to find a comparison. So like Maroon 5 was what Maroon 5 was, and then Adam Levine sort of had his own spin-off solo stuff, and then now, no matter if you're hearing a Maroon 5 song or an Adam Levine song, it's an Adam Levine song. And I feel like that's sort of Paramore now as well. Like, it doesn't feel like this is a band. It feels like this is a solo artist with kind of a band in the background.
Yeah. Yeah, their sound has definitely changed a lot over the years. I still like everything they put out and stuff, so I'm excited despite having not gotten a single or anything yet. I'm excited to hopefully get something.
Yeah, and I will still listen to it and probably enjoy it. So just last one, and I don't listen to this band very much, so it's all you.
Yeah, so I used to listen to them a lot back, like the kind of crabcore, like emo kind of metal days. It's like the kind of peak of Devil Wears Prada and stuff, but We Came as Romans.
Attack.
Yeah, Attack. But We Came as Romans, their singer, they have a new singer now, and they put out 2 singles, Dark Bloom and Black Hole. I think they might actually put those singles out 2 years ago. So it's been a while, and I don't think that there's been a confirmed date, but they have confirmed that they're recording and working on an album with their new singer. So it seems like something should probably come out this year. Those 2 singles, Black Hole and Dark Bloom, are much heavier, which, I think we talked earlier about a new singer brings about a new sound. So I'm kind of excited to see where they go with it and see, I'm not as much into like the old We Came as Romans. I kind of either like my music with the vocals to be like clean, softer, or like heavy as hell, and like the kind of in between stuff, I don't know, I don't listen to quite as much, I guess. I love a good balance. I like the balance of both in my songs. I do like a mix, but I do understand there's a lot of people where it's like one or the other. Don't give me both. It depends for me. Like, honestly, if they do it in a certain way, I do appreciate and enjoy it. But I'd say generally I like it either to be like all screams and growls or all cleans. Like the occasional singing and stuff is fine, but
right.
Yeah, I think that's, as of now, that's kind of all that's on our radar for the year. I mean, it's a lot of albums considering it's only January. Yeah. But
there will definitely be more, and we'll have some other podcast episodes where it might not be as like structured, like specifically, like right now we're specifically talking about releases. Last one we were specifically talking about album of the year for last year. We might have some less structured episodes in the future where maybe we're just sort of recapping on things, tour announcements, album announcements, single releases, just up to that point. So it's possible that we'll discuss some more announcements here at some point in a future episode. But for now, this is what's on our radar. So if we missed anything that probably should have been on this list, let us know.
We're always happy to check out more songs, more bands.
And definitely, if something flew under our radar, we want to get it on the radar to make sure that we listen to it when it comes out. And we're definitely looking forward to a lot of these records. Let us know if you have any suggestions too for future episodes. We definitely have some things in the works, some ideas, but if there's anything you want to hear or just any questions you have for us, hit us up on our socials. Instagram, it is at Progressive Gentleman, and Twitter, it is at ProgGentPod, ProgDGentPod. Thank you guys so much for listening. We appreciate it, and we'll catch you next time.